In 2019, the United States government tried to do something simple: kill a company. No Google, no advanced chips, no access to the machines that build the machines. Every analyst on the planet agreed on one thing: Huawei was finished. Apple, meanwhile, looked untouchable. The iPhone, the App Store, a supply chain so efficient it became a business school legend. For over a decade, nobody could really touch it. So when Huawei got hit, boardrooms in Cupertino breathed a little easier. One less competitor, one less headache. Fast forward to right now, 2026. Huawei isn't dead. It's not even struggling. It's eating Apple's lunch in Apple's most important, most profitable market on Earth. And here's the part that should actually worry you. It's not winning despite the ban. There's a real case that it's winning because of it. This is the story of how you try to execute a company and accidentally hand it superpowers instead. Here's what you're about to watch. A company gets its oxygen cut off in 2019. By 2026, it's out-innovating the company that helped cut it. You're going to watch the exact tool built to keep a country dependent on the West do the opposite, in real time, with real numbers. By the end, one question is going to be hard to shake. Was this ever really about one phone company? It starts with a signature. May 2019. The U.S. Commerce Department places Huawei on something called the Entity List. Overnight, Huawei loses Google mobile services, no Play Store, no Gmail, no Maps. Then it loses something worse: access to TSMC, the single most advanced chip foundry on Earth, the only place capable of making the world's best silicon. This wasn't a warning shot. It was designed to be terminal. And by every normal rule of business, it should have worked. Cut off the software, cut off the chips, wait for the company to bleed out. Instead, Beijing and the Shenzhen government moved in with serious money, a reported $15 billion spin-off of the Honor brand to keep it alive, a sharp jump in state research funding, and thousands of engineers pulled into a single site with one job: rebuild everything, from the silicon up. At the time, this looked like a company on life support. It wasn't life support. It was the opening move of a completely different game, and nobody outside that room knew it yet. This is where the story was supposed to end. You cannot manufacture the world's most advanced chip foundry out of thin air. Cutting-edge chip making is arguably the hardest industrial process humans have ever built. Without the newest precision machines, tech only one company on Earth even makes, China was supposed to be locked out permanently. Then Huawei's chips came back, not stolen, engineered. Huawei's partner, SMIC, took older machines never meant for this job, banned from the newest extreme ultraviolet tech, and brute forced them with a technique called SAQP, self-aligned quadruple patterning. Picture painting a fine detail with a thick house paint brush, going over the same line 100 times until it's close enough. It's slow. It's wasteful. Estimated yields sit somewhere between 20 and 40%, meaning for every 10 chips made, as many as 8 get thrown away as defective. Nobody does this for profit. You do this to prove a point. The result? A 5-nanometer class chip called the Kirin 9030, rumored to power Huawei's next flagship, the Mate 80 Air, later this year. A chip that, according to the Sanctions' entire design, was never supposed to exist. Read that again. The wall, built specifically to stop this, just got climbed. So if Huawei solved the impossible hardware problem, what else did it quietly solve? Hardware is hard. Everyone knew that going in. Software ecosystems are a different kind of hard, the kind that's killed giants before. Microsoft spent years and billions trying to build a third mobile ecosystem. It died anyway. No apps, no users. No users, no apps. Almost nothing escapes that trap. Huawei walked straight into it. First, a patched-together stopgap, Android underneath, just without Google. Then, no more patchwork. Harmony OS next, ripped out the Android code completely. Every app rebuilt from zero, on Huawei's own terms. Industry watchers gave it no real chance. Then China's biggest apps started showing up anyway. Alipay, Baidu, Meituan. And then the moment that changed everything. Tencent, the company behind WeChat, the app that basically is daily life in China, built a native version. Payments, messaging, everything. Without WeChat, this ecosystem doesn't survive. With WeChat, the last wall falls. Watch the timeline, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. Late 2024, Harmony OS barely registers, 17%, a rounding error next to Android and iOS. 6 months later, 19%. iOS starts sliding. By early 2026, Harmony OS is holding steady at 19. iOS has dropped to 17. Two companies just swapped places in China in 18 months. Apple didn't just lose share, it lost control of the layer everything else runs on, the layer that decides which apps exist, which AI assistant answers you, which company owns the relationship with the customer. And it's about to get worse. Apple's entire next decade of growth leans on one thing: Apple Intelligence. China's AI rules require local review and local data storage. Apple's global AI architecture wasn't built for that, so it stalled. At WWDC 2026, Apple had to admit Siri's new AI wouldn't even launch in China on day one. Then, in March 2026, it briefly went live anyway, reportedly by accident, before getting yanked back to dodge regulatory penalties. Apple, the most tightly controlled product company on Earth, tripping over its own launch. Meanwhile, Huawei's AI assistant, Xiaoyi, launched already plugged into local travel and medical services. No foreign approval needed. It was born compliant. Same country, same rulebook, two completely different starting lines. One company is sprinting, the other is still filling out paperwork. This is where survival turns into domination. Foldables are the new symbol of smartphone luxury. While Apple kept polishing a rectangle of glass, Huawei shipped the Mate XT, the world's first tri-fold phone. Unfolded, a 10.2-inch screen. Not a phone, a tablet that also calls people. 470,000 units sold. $1.3 billion in revenue. Huawei's share of China's foldable market, 48%. Apple's share, 0, because Apple doesn't have one. In China's premium tier, the phone that's supposed to define luxury tech doesn't have a seat at the table it built. Now the cars, because this is where it stops being about phones entirely. Apple spent a decade and billions of dollars on a secret car project, codename Titan. In 2024, it killed it. No product, no launch, nothing to show a decade of work for. In that same window, Xiaomi, a phone company with no car experience, became a real automaker. 3 years, start to finish. Over 410,000 vehicles delivered in 2025. 500,000 targeted for 2026. Here's the part that actually matters. Those cars don't just drive. They run the exact same software ecosystem as the phones, the tablets, the smart home devices. One unified digital life. The thing Apple has spent a decade dreaming about building around the iPhone. Someone else built it first. And it has 4 wheels. Apple tried and quit twice in the 2 categories foldables, and cars, where China's ecosystem just went all in and won. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. By mid-2026, the scoreboard is brutal. Huawei, 22.6% of China, up almost 20% in a year. Apple, 18.1%, also growing, but only on the back of price promotions and early signals of a coming price hike. Everyone else is bleeding. Oppo, down close to 10%. Vivo, down over 11%. Xiaomi's phone business down almost 22%. The whole Chinese market shrank over 4%. Why? A global memory chip shortage. AI data centers pulling hard on the world's supply of DRAM and NAND sent memory prices sharply higher, doubling and tripling in under a year. For budget phone makers, memory chips now eat up nearly 30% of the entire raw material budget for a device, up from around a fifth just a year earlier. Read that again. Memory alone is now close to a third of what it costs to build the cheapest phones on Earth. That's not a rounding error, that's a margin killer. Cheap phones stopped being cheap to make, so they stopped being cheap to buy. That single shift wiped out roughly 22% of the entire budget smartphone market almost overnight, while the premium segment, over $400, actually grew. Only two companies had the pricing power to shrug it off: Huawei and Apple. That should sound like good news for Apple. It isn't. It's a countdown, because when Apple's cheap inventory runs out, the price hikes hit for real, with no localized AI to justify them. While the giants fight at the top, someone's getting crushed underneath. Transition, the world's fourth largest phone maker, virtually unknown in the West, the undisputed king of budget phones across Africa, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, just got hit twice. First, the same memory crisis crushing everyone else, profit cut by more than half in a year. Second, something new: Ericsson, InterDigital, LG, three of the world's biggest patent holders, filing infringement complaints in India, Brazil, Nigeria, Colombia, places that were for years considered too difficult, too costly, too slow to sue in. Transition built an empire in the gap nobody else wanted to defend. 40% of the market in Africa, 40% in Pakistan, nearly 30% in Bangladesh. That gap just got a lot smaller. Transition's defense was simple: our phones cost a fraction of an iPhone, so we shouldn't pay the same royalty rate as Apple or Samsung. Then, in July 2026, the first crack in that defense showed. Transition signed a global settlement with Ericsson, agreeing to pay up, ending the fight in every market where it had been dragged to court. InterDigital and LG's cases are still working through the system elsewhere. One settlement doesn't end the war, but it proves the point. The era of paying nothing in the world's cheapest phone markets is closing. For hundreds of millions of people who were never ever going to buy an iPhone, this isn't background noise. It's the difference between affording a phone and not. The war at the top of the market just sent a shockwave straight to the bottom of it. Here's the irony sitting underneath all of it. The sanctions were built to guarantee dependency forever. Dependent on American software, dependent on Western chips, they forced the opposite. Huawei doesn't run on Google anymore. It runs on a system it owns outright. It doesn't rely on TSMC anymore. It runs on chips built inside China, however imperfectly. It doesn't wait on foreign AI approval anymore. It was never trying to get one. Apple isn't fighting the Huawei that existed in 2019. That company is gone. And zoom out for 1 second, because this was never really a phone story. What's forming here is the early shape of two separate technology worlds, one still largely built in the West, one increasingly built, owned, and controlled by China. from the silicon to the software to the car in the driveway. Consumers may soon be choosing between two different technological futures, not two phones. America tried to eliminate a threat. What it actually did was force that threat to stop needing anyone else. Apple's biggest problem in China was never really Huawei. It's what Huawei was forced to become. Sometimes the fastest way to build a stronger rival is to leave it no choice but to build everything itself. Think about that for a second. Every wall the United States put up in 2019 was meant to keep China dependent. Every one of them ended up torn down and rebuilt as a foundation, not a weakness, a foundation. So here's the question worth sitting with. If one political decision reshaped an entire industry by accident, what other industries right now are quietly being reshaped the exact same way? We just haven't noticed yet.